The email notification pinged with infuriating cheerfulness on Michael Tran's ancient laptop screen. Subject urgent, estate of Josiah R. Blackwood. Michael snorted, leaning back in his worn-out gaming chair, the springs groaning in protest. Yeah, right. Nigerian prince got himself an upgrade. Huh? Oil baron this time. He hovered the cursor over the delete button. Another day, another scam. He was a 20-something tech support drone living in a shoebox apartment in Queens, subsisting mostly on instant ramen, and the vague hope that one of his side hustle app ideas might actually take off. Heirs to oil barons didn't live like this. He clicked delete. Good riddance. Back to debugging Mrs. Henderson's perpetually confused printer connection. Life continued its relentless march towards mediocrity for another week. Then came the knock on his door. Not the usual pizza delivery guy, or the landlord reminding him about the perpetually leaky faucet he'd reported 3 months ago. This was a firm, decisive knock. 3 raps echoing slightly in the narrow hallway. Michael peered through the peephole. 2 figures stood there, looking distinctly out of place. A man and a woman, both dressed in suits so sharp they could probably cut glass. The man was older, silver-haired, with an air of quiet authority, and a briefcase that looked like it cost more than Michael's entire wardrobe. The woman was younger, sharp features, dark hair pulled back severely, holding a sleek tablet. They radiated expensive lawyer vibes so strongly Michael could almost smell the leather upholstery in billable hours. He hesitated, then cracked the door open, leaving the chain on. Can I help you?" The man offered a polite, thin smile. "Mr. Michael Tran?" "Depends. Who's asking?" Michael eyed the briefcase warily. "Process servers?" Had Mrs. Henderson finally sued him over the printer? "My name is Arthur Sterling, and this is my associate, Miss Eleanor Vance. We're from Sterling, Vance, and Abernathy." He paused, letting the name hang in the air. It sounded vaguely familiar, like a firm you saw sponsoring charity galas or defending corporate titans. "We represent the estate of the late Josiah R. Blackwood." Michael's brain stalled. The email guy?" Miss Vance tapped on her tablet. "You received our initial electronic communication approximately 7 days ago, regarding Mr. Blackwood's last will and testament." Her voice was crisp, efficient. "I might have flagged it as spam." Michael felt a flush creeping up his neck. Mr. Sterling chuckled softly, a dry, rustling sound. "Understandable, Mr. Tran. The circumstances are unusual. May we come in? What we have to discuss is rather sensitive, and perhaps better not conducted in the hallway." Hesitantly, Michael undid the chain and opened the door wider. They stepped inside, their expensive shoes looking faintly horrified by his worn linoleum floor. They subtly avoided touching anything as they stood awkwardly in the cramped living space, which also served as his dining room and home office. "Please have well, you can stand," Michael offered lamely, gesturing vaguely. There was only the gaming chair and a beanbag that had seen better decades. Mr. Sterling cleared his throat. "Mr. Tran, Josiah Blackwood was your maternal great-great-uncle. Never heard of him." "Not surprising," Miss Vance said, her eyes scanning his apartment with unnerving speed. "He was notoriously private, especially in his later years. He made his fortune in Texas oil during the early and mid-20th century. A fortune," she paused for emphasis, "of considerable size." "Okay," Michael said slowly. "And? Did he leave me like a dusty photo album?" Mr. Sterling exchanged a look with Miss Vance. "Mr. Tran," he said, his voice dropping slightly, becoming more serious. "Josiah Blackwood passed away recently. He had no direct descendants. After an extensive genealogical search, you, along with a few other distant relatives, have been identified as potential heirs to his entire estate." Michael stared at them. "Entire estate? Oil baron? Entire estate?" The words felt foreign, like trying to speak Klingon. How considerable are we talking?" Miss Vance consulted her tablet again. "The preliminary valuation, accounting for assets, including land, oil rights, stock portfolios, real estate holdings, art collections, and liquid capital, is estimated to be in excess of $9 billion. $9 billion. Michael felt the floor tilt. He gripped the back of his gaming chair for support. "9 B," he croaked. "With a B?" "Indeed," Mr. Sterling confirmed gravely. "However, the will includes certain stipulations. Mr. Blackwood was an eccentric man. He structured his inheritance not as a simple bequest, but as a sort of trial." "Trial?" Michael repeated numbly. "The inheritance is not automatically granted," Miss Vance explained. "Potential heirs must demonstrate certain qualities outlined in the will, qualities Mr. Blackwood valued: resourcefulness, discernment, the ability to handle wealth responsibly, and perhaps most importantly, the capacity to enjoy it. There's a process, a legal framework we are here to guide you through." "And the other relatives?" Michael asked, a sudden coldness creeping in despite the absurdity of the situation. "They have also been contacted," Mr. Sterling said carefully. "The exact terms stipulate that the bulk of the estate will consolidate towards the heir who best navigates the conditions set forth. It is potentially competitive. Michael's head was spinning. Billions, trials, competitive relatives. It was too much. It felt like a fever dream induced by cheap ramen. Suddenly, a faint, melodic ding echoed, not in the room, but directly inside his head. A translucent blue screen shimmered into existence just before his eyes, unseen by the lawyers who were patiently waiting for him to process the bombshells they'd dropped. Legacy wealth system activated. Welcome. Objective: embrace your destiny. And the cash. First task: formal acceptance. Requirement: verbally confirm your intention to pursue the Blackwood inheritance to the estate representatives. Reward: initial stipend. $1 million USD plus system interface tutorial. Michael blinked hard. He rubbed his eyes. The blue screen remained, glowing softly. A system? Like in those web novels. Was this a side effect of shock? Or was this inheritance even weirder than he thought? He looked at the lawyers, then back at the floating screen only he could see. $1 million just for saying yes. Compared to $9 billion, it was pocket change. But to him, right now, it was everything. And maybe this system thing could help him navigate the trial. He took a deep breath, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Okay, he said, meeting Mr. Sterling's gaze. Okay, I'm in. I accept. I want to pursue this inheritance. Ding! Task complete. Formal acceptance. Reward issued. $1 million USD wired to a newly established preliminary account. Account details accessible via system interface. Reward issued. System interface tutorial initiated. Mr. Sterling nodded, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Excellent, Mr. Tran. That is the first step. We have prepared some initial documentation and resources for you. He opened his briefcase. Miss Vance stepped forward. We've taken the liberty of securing temporary, more suitable accommodations for you. A penthouse suite at the St. Regis has been arranged, effective immediately. Your current residence is not conducive to the requirements ahead. Her tone suggested his apartment was barely fit for microbial life. A penthouse? Michael stammered. Indeed, Sterling said smoothly, handing Michael a thick folder and a sleek, heavy credit card. This is a preliminary expense account linked to the funds just transferred. Consider it seed capital for the initial phases. There are expectations regarding appearances and lifestyle adjustments. Miss Vance has arranged for a car service downstairs to take you to the hotel. Michael looked at the black, metallic card in his hand. It felt impossibly heavy. He glanced at the blue screen, which now displayed a balance. System tutorial active. Accessing funds the provided card draws directly from your preliminary account. Use it. Experience it. Wealth is a tool. Learn to wield it. New task. First taste of luxury requirement. Make a purchase exceeding $1,000 within the next 3 hours. Reward: plus 10 legacy points. Minor confidence boost effect. Reduces stammering. $1,000? He'd never spent that much on anything non-essential in his life. He looked around his cramped apartment, at the peeling paint and the flickering fluorescent light. Then he looked at the lawyers, the black card, and the shimmering blue screen promising $1 million to start. Right, Michael said, a strange mix of terror and exhilaration bubbling inside him. The confidence boost hadn't kicked in yet. Penthouse, car service, spending money. Got it. He grabbed his worn backpack, hesitated, then dropped it. Whatever he needed, he could probably buy now. He stuffed the folder and the card into his pocket. Lead the way. Downstairs, a gleaming black Cadillac Escalade waited, a uniformed driver holding the rear door open. As Michael slid onto the plush leather seats, leaving his old life literally on the curb, the system chimed again. Tutorial update, legacy points, legacy points. Quantify your progress in fulfilling Josiah Blackwood's vision. Earn LP by completing tasks, achieving milestones, and demonstrating affinity with a life of wealth. Higher LP unlocks greater access to estate resources and system functions. Michael leaned back against the headrest, the scent of expensive leather filling his nostrils. Queens blurred past the tinted windows. $9 billion. A crazy dead relative, competing heirs, and a video game system in his head managing it all. This wasn't just a life change. This was a whole new reality. He looked at the black card again. First, taste of luxury. $1,000 minimum. Where did one even start? Driver, Michael said, testing his new voice. Can we make a stop? Maybe somewhere with nice suits? The driver met his eyes in the rearview mirror, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. Of course, sir. May I suggest Saks Fifth Avenue? It's on the way. Michael grinned. Saks it was. Time to spend some money and see what happened. Stepping into Saks was like entering a different dimension. Soft lighting, hushed tones, the subtle scent of expensive perfume, and racks upon racks of clothes that cost more than his monthly rent. Michael felt immediately out of place in his faded jeans and slightly too small band t-shirt. People glided past, exuding an effortless chic he couldn't even begin to comprehend. Confidence boost minor applied. Effect reduced public self-consciousness. Okay, maybe the system wasn't useless. He felt a little less like crawling under a display table. A salesperson, impeccably dressed and radiating polite condescension, approached him. Can I help you find something, sir? The sir sounded strained, as if physically pained by Michael's attire. Yeah, Michael said, pulling out the black card. Might as well lead with it. I need basically everything. Suits, casual wear, shoes, the works. Starting fresh. The salesperson's eyes flickered to the card, a glint of professional interest replacing the disdain. It was an Amex Centurion card, the mythical black card. Sterling and Vance didn't mess around. Suddenly the sir sounded genuine. Right this way, sir. Allow me to introduce you to Mr. Dubois, our top personal stylist. He'll ensure you find exactly what you need. Mr. Dubois was a whirlwind of silk scarves, dramatic hand gestures, and pronouncements about lapel widths and Italian wool. Michael mostly just nodded, feeling like a mannequin being dressed up. He tried on suits that cost more than his car. A beat-up 10-year-old Civic, shirts smoother than anything he'd ever touched, and shoes that felt like walking on clouds. This Brioni suit perfection, Dubois declared, adjusting the shoulder. And perhaps a Patek Philippe watch to complete the ensemble. He gestured towards a glittering watch counter nearby. Michael glanced at the price tag dangling discreetly from the suit's sleeve. $7,500, just for the suit. He swallowed. Okay. Task requirement, exceed $1,000. This would definitely do it. Yeah, the suit's great, Michael said. Maybe hold off on the watch for now? Let's get the basics first. He needed to pace himself, even with $1 million. Several hours and multiple large shopping bags later, Michael emerged back onto Fifth Avenue, blinking in the sunlight. He'd spent just over $25,000 on clothes. It felt obscene, and strangely, exhilarating. Ding! Task complete. First taste of luxury. Expenditure, $25,348.72. Requirement exceeded. Reward, plus 10 legacy points. Total LP 10. Bonus objective achieved. Significant overspending. Bonus reward, tasteful spender perk minor. Effect, slightly improved intuition for quality goods. Michael hailed his waiting Escalade, the driver loading the bags into the trunk with practiced ease. As they pulled away, heading towards the St. Regis, Michael felt a shift. It wasn't just the ridiculously comfortable new cashmere sweater he was wearing. It was a sense of possibility, a loosening of the tight knot of anxiety that had been his constant companion for years. The St. Regis was pure old-world opulence. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, staff who addressed him as Mr. Tran with unnerving politeness. He was escorted to the Penthouse suite, a sprawling space with panoramic views of Central Park, multiple bedrooms, a grand piano he had no idea how to play, and a bathroom bigger than his entire old apartment. Will there be anything else, Mr. Tran? The hotel manager asked, hovering respectfully by the door. Michael waved him away. No, thanks. I am good. Alone, he wandered through the suite, touching the silk wallpaper sinking into a plush velvet armchair. It felt unreal. He half expected to wake up back in Queens. Ding! New task. Establish your domain requirement. Personalize your temporary residence. Acquire at least one item of significant value. Cite $50,000 for the suite. Optional goal. Demonstrate personal taste. Reward. Additional LP. Time limit 72 hours. Reward plus 50 legacy points. Access to basic estate network. Level 1. $50,000? On one item? For a temporary place? The system wasn't kidding about embracing the cash. What did one even buy for a hotel suite? A solid gold toothbrush holder? A pet leopard? He accessed the system interface, a clean, intuitive menu floating in his vision. He checked his balance. $974,651.28. Spending $25K had barely made a dent. He explored the interface. There were sections for tasks, assets, legacy points, estate network, currently locked, and system store, also locked. He could see the wire transfer confirmation, the credit card details, and a brief bio of Josiah R. Blackwood, emphasizing his ruthlessness in business, but also his later life obsession with legacy and living well. A notification popped up from the estate network section. Even though it was locked, it was a message forwarded by Sterling and Vance. From Mildred Peterson, subject, family reunion. Message, dearest Michael. Arthur Sterling contacted me. Isn't it just shocking about Uncle Josiah? We never knew him, of course, but family is family. I heard you are in the city. We simply must get together. Harold, my son, your second cousin once removed, is dying to meet you. How about dinner tomorrow night? My treat, though, perhaps you can afford somewhere nicer now. Let me know. Love, Aunt Mildred. Michael groaned. Aunt Mildred. He vaguely remembered her from a family gathering years ago, a woman with aggressively permed hair and a voice that could curdle milk. And her son Harold. Wasn't he the one who collected toenail clippings? Or was that a different cousin? The competitive aspect Sterling mentioned suddenly felt very real, and potentially very awkward. He needed to figure this out. The system, the money, the relatives, the lawyers, the trial. It was a lot, but first, $50,000 on something for the suite. He looked at the grand piano. Could he buy a self-playing one? That seemed suitably lazy and luxurious. He pulled out his phone, his old cracked screen phone, and Googled self-playing grand piano price. Steinway Spirio, Prices started around $100,000. Perfect. It even hit the significant value mark and may be counted as personal taste, if his taste was pianos that play themselves because I can't be bothered to learn. He found the number for the Steinway Hall on his phone. Time to make another expensive phone call. This whole billionaire hair thing was surprisingly demanding. The next few days were a blur of controlled chaos. Michael bought the Steinway Spirio R, top of the line naturally, arranging for its delivery and installation in the St. Regis penthouse with the speed only money could facilitate. The hotel staff barely blinked. Apparently, self-playing grand pianos were just another Tuesday for them. Ding! Task complete. Establish your domain. Item acquired, Steinway Spirio R piano, $145,000. Value threshold met. Optional goal achieved. Item reflects appreciation for articulture. Even automated. Reward, plus 60 legacy points. 50 base plus 10 bonus. Total LP 70. Reward. Access to basic estate network. Level 1 unlocked. The estate network section of his system interface flickered to life. It looked like a secure internal website, filled with dry-looking sections. Asset overview. Partial legal updates restricted. Genealogical records. Partial. And a comms channel supposedly monitored by Sterling and Vance. There wasn't much actionable info yet, mostly placeholders and legalese, but it felt like progress. He also dealt with Aunt Mildred. He agreed to dinner, choosing a ridiculously expensive French restaurant Le Bernardin that required reservations weeks in advance. Sterling and Vance handled that with unnerving efficiency. A quiet word, a mention of the Blackwood estate, and suddenly a prime table was available. Michael was learning that Blackwood estate was a magic phrase. Dinner was an experience. Aunt Mildred arrived wearing something loud and floral, her perm seemingly tighter than ever. Cousin Harold, a man in his late 30s with unnervingly wide eyes and ill-fitting clothes, fidgeted constantly and kept trying to steer the conversation towards obscure conspiracy theories involving lizard people and the Federal Reserve. Mildred spent most of the meal alternating between gushing about the shocking inheritance. Josiah must have been such a character, and subtly probing Michael for information. How much money did he have access to? What did the lawyers say? Did he know about the other potential heirs? T here is Clarissa Blackwood Smythe, you know, Mildred stage whispered, leaning across the table, scattering breadcrumbs. Second cousin twice removed on Josiah's mother's side, I think. Very ambitious, they say. Works in finance. Sharp as a tack, and twice as pleasant. She sniffed. And then T here is that brute Duke Thorne, some kind of distant nephew through Josiah's wild younger brother. Apparently, he runs a security consulting business. More like leg breaking, if you ask me. Harold suddenly chimed in. Are they lizard people, Aunt Mildred? The Smythes are known. Hush, Harold, Mildred snapped, before turning back to Michael with a saccharine smile. Anyway, Michael dear, the point is, family should stick together in times like these. We can help each other navigate this complexity. Perhaps a small family loan to tide Harold over until the estate settles. Michael managed to politely deflect the loan request, paid the astronomical bill without blinking. System notification. Social maneuvering detected. Successfully navigated first encounter with competing site-probing relatives. Plus 5 legacy points. Total LP 75. New perk unlocked. Polite deflection minor. Effect slightly increased resistance to guilt trips and unsubtle requests for money. Useful, Michael muttered to himself as he entered his opulent suite, the Steinway gleaming under the soft lights. Dealing with relatives was apparently part of the game. He made a mental note. Clarissa Blackwood Smythe and Duke Thorne. Competition. The next day, Sterling called. Mr. Tran, good morning. I trust your accommodations are satisfactory? Yay, Sterling, it's fine. Better than fine. What's up? Michael was starting to get used to the abrupt shifts in his life. It's time for the next phase. Transportation. Mr. Blackwood valued freedom and mobility, and appearance. Arriving in a taxi or even the hotel's admittedly excellent car service does not project the right image. The estate provides a generous vehicle allowance. Allowance? Effectively unlimited within reason, Sterling clarified dryly. Miss Vance has compiled a list of dealerships specializing in marquees suitable for your station. Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Ferrari, Lamborghini. Take your pick. Acquire something appropriate, today, if possible. Ding! New task. Appropriate conveyance requirement. Purchase a new luxury vehicle with a list price exceeding $300,000. Optional goal, select a vehicle reflecting both power and style. Time limit, 48 hours. Reward, plus 100 legacy points. Commanding presence perk, minor. Access to estate garage network, level 1. $300,000? For a car? Michael's old Civic hadn't even cost $10K. He sighed. More shopping. It was exhausting being rich. He had Miss Vance send the list. Lamborghini sounded fun. He vaguely remembered posters of Lamborghinis on teenage boys' walls. Why not? He told the St. Regis concierge he needed transport to a Lamborghini dealership in Manhattan. A different Escalade appeared, this one somehow even blacker and more imposing. The Lamborghini dealership was less a showroom and more a temple to speed and excess. Gleaming angular beasts sat under spotlights, radiating raw power and eye-watering price tags. A salesman in a suit sharper than Mr. Dubois's instantly materialized. "How may I assist you, sir?" Michael, now clad in his expensive new clothes, felt slightly more confident. "I need a car, today." He gestured vaguely. "Something fast, and maybe not yellow." The salesman's professional smile widened. "Excellent choice, sir. Perhaps the Aventador SVJ. It represents the pinnacle of our Visatua line. 6.5-liter engine, 759 horsepower, 0 to 60 in under 2.8 seconds. A true statement." He led Michael towards a menacing-looking machine in matte gray. "How much?" Michael asked, bracing himself. "This particular model with bespoke interior options is $585,000 plus taxes and fees." Michael mentally reviewed his system balance. Still well over $800K left in the initial stipend. "Okay, I'll take it." The salesman blinked. He likely dealt with wealthy clients all day, but immediate decisions on $500,000 supercars were probably still noteworthy. "Just like that, sir." "Yeah," Michael said, pulling out the black card again. This thing was ridiculously useful. "Need it registered and insured like now. Can you handle that?" "Absolutely, sir. We have an expedited service for preferred clients. If you'll just step into our lounge." Several hours, a mountain of paperwork signed electronically on a tablet, and one slightly terrifying test drive later. The salesman looked pale. Michael was the owner of a matte gray Lamborghini Aventador SVJ. It felt utterly absurd. Ding! Task complete. Appropriate conveyance. Vehicle acquired. Lamborghini Aventador SVJ. $585,000. Value threshold met. Optional goal achieved. Vehicle reflects both power extreme and style aggressive. Reward, plus 125 legacy points. 100 base plus 25 bonus. Total LP 200. Reward, commanding presence perk. Minor activated. Effect, people subconsciously pay more attention when you speak. Reward, access to estate garage network. The estate garage network interface showed a list of properties with extensive garage space, mostly attached to large mansions or compounds owned by the estate. Currently inaccessible. It also listed preferred service centers and detailing specialists. Useful, he supposed. He drove the Lamborghini back to the St. Regis, the engine snarling and popping in Manhattan traffic, drawing stares from everyone. Parking it required coordinating with the hotel valet, who looked both thrilled and terrified. Stepping out of the car, feeling the thrum of the engine fade, Michael noticed someone watching him from across the street. A woman, impeccably dressed in a power suit, leaning casually against a black Mercedes sedan. Sharp features, coolly appraising eyes. She gave him a slow, deliberate nod, a small, knowing smile playing on her lips, before sliding into her own car and driving away. Michael had a sinking feeling he'd just been spotted by Clarissa Blackwood Smythe. The competitive part of this inheritance was starting to heat up. He needed to figure out more about this trial, and what Josiah Blackwood actually wanted. And maybe, just maybe, learn how to drive a $500,000 supercar without giving himself or anyone else a heart attack. Life in the penthouse suite quickly settled into a bizarre routine. Wake up to panoramic views, order exorbitant room service. Because why not? Check the system for tasks or messages, and figure out how to spend money in ways that satisfied a dead oil baron's eccentric ghost in the machine will. The Lamborghini mostly sat in the hotel garage, looking intimidating. Michael used the hotel's car service for most trips. Navigating Manhattan in a Visatua monster felt more stressful than exhilarating. He did take it out for a late-night spin upstate once, flooring it on an empty highway, the engine screaming. It was terrifyingly fun, but reinforced his decision to leave the daily driving to professionals. He started exploring the city's high-end attractions, mostly prompted by system tasks. Ding! New task. Cultural enrichment requirement. Attend a high-profile cultural event, opera, ballet, art gala. Demonstrate appreciation. Optional goal, make a significant donation $20,000 plus to the arts organization. Reward, plus 75 legacy points. Cultured, sophisticate buff. Temporary increases positive perception in high society. Michael found himself at the Metropolitan Opera, sitting in a private box secured by Sterling and Vance, wearing another ridiculously expensive suit. He knew nothing about opera. He spent most of the time trying to follow the surtitles and discreetly checking his system interface. During intermission, mingling awkwardly with people dripping in jewels and old money, he overheard snippets of conversation market fluctuations, summer plans in the Hamptons, and whispers about the reclusive Blackwood estate finally being settled. Eyes occasionally flickered towards him, curiosity mixed with appraisal. The commanding presence perk seemed to make people notice him, even if they didn't know who he was yet. He made the donation via his phone during the second act. A quick wire transfer of $50,000 to the Met's endowment fund. Ding! Task complete. Cultural enrichment. Event attended. Metropolitan Opera performance of La Bosandmi. Donation made. $50,000. Optional goal achieved. Reward, plus 100 legacy points. 75 base plus 25 bonus. Total LP 300. Reward, Cultured, sophisticate, buff activated 24 hours. He felt absolutely no more cultured. But the LP counter went up, so that was good. His initial $1 million was dwindling faster than he'd expected. The car, the piano, the clothes, the donation, plus daily expenses like 5-star room service, and tipping everyone extravagantly, another system suggestion for projecting generosity added up. He was down to about $150,000. He mentioned this in a brief call with Miss Vance. The initial stipend is running a bit low, he said, trying to sound casual. Perfectly normal, Mr. Tran, she replied smoothly. That seed capital was intended for initial acclimatization, based on your progress fulfilling preliminary tasks, acquiring appropriate assets, demonstrating a willingness to engage with the required lifestyle. The trustees have authorized the release of the next tranche of operating funds. Tranche? $10 million will be wired to your account within the hour, she said, as if discussing the weather. This should cover intermediate expenses and upcoming requirements. Ding! System notification, increased financial access. Trustee approval received. Intermediate operating fund released. Account balance updated, $10,150,000 approx. New system function unlocked. Basic financial forecasting level 1. Allows rudimentary prediction of task-related expenditure needs. $10 million. Michael stared at the updated balance on his system screen. He felt a weird mix of numbness and giddiness. A week ago, he was stressing about a $50 credit card bill. Now he had $10 million in his checking account, and it was considered intermediate operating funds. The system chimed again almost immediately. New task, secure permanent residence requirement. Identify and acquire a suitable primary residence in Manhattan. Minimum property value, $15 million. Optional goal, property must possess unique features befitting the Blackwood legacy e.g. historical significance, exceptional views, bespoke security. Time limit, 14 days. Reward, plus 500 legacy points. Access to estate network, level 2. Master of the domain title, passive buff, increased influence within owned properties. 15 million? Minimum? He wasn't just buying an apartment. He was buying a small skyscraper slice. And he only had 10 million liquid. This task seemed designed to push him. He accessed the newly unlocked financial forecasting function. It gave him a projection task, secure permanent residence. Likely requires leveraging estate assets or credit lines. Consult estate representatives. Right. Time to talk to Sterling again. Mr. Sterling, Michael said over the phone, trying to sound like someone who casually discussed 8-figure real estate deals. About this permanent residence task. Ah, yes. Sterling's voice was calm. The stay. Regis is excellent, but temporary. Mr. Blackwood owns several properties, but the will encourages demonstrating your own initiative in establishing a base. 15 million is a baseline. Frankly, we anticipated you might aim higher. Well, the current operating fund is only 10 million, Michael pointed out. Indeed, this is where the estate's resources come into play. Based on your legacy point score currently 300, which is progressing adequately, the trustees can authorize securing financing against the estate's assets. Think of it as a line of credit guaranteed by your potential inheritance. Alternatively, some of Josiah's less restricted portfolios could be partially liquidated, but that takes time. Financing is faster. Leveraging his potential inheritance. It felt like betting on himself in a very high-stakes game. Okay, so I find a place, and you guys handle the financing. Precisely. Miss Vance has already curated a list of exceptional properties currently on the market that meet the criteria. She can arrange viewings immediately. We recommend focusing on penthouses or townhouses in prime locations, Upper East Side, Central Park West, Tribeca perhaps. Miss Vance, efficient as ever, emailed the list within minutes. It was obscene. Penthouses with private pools, historic townhouses with original details meticulously restored, sprawling lofts with museum-quality finishes. Prices ranged from $15 million to upwards of $50 million. Michael spent the next few days touring properties that made his St. Regis suite look like a motel room. He saw onyx bathrooms, climate-controlled wine cellars bigger than his old apartment, private elevators, rooftop terraces with outdoor kitchens, and views that stretched across the entire city. He found himself strangely drawn to a massive duplex penthouse atop a new, ultra-modern skyscraper near Central Park South. It had floor-to-ceiling windows offering 360-degree views, a sleek, minimalist design, state-of-the-art smart home integration, and crucially for the optional goal, a private biometric-secured elevator that opened directly into the foyer. It felt powerful, futuristic, and slightly impersonal, a blank canvas for whatever his new life was supposed to be. The asking price? $35 million. $35 million? He repeated to the impossibly glamorous real estate agent guiding him through. It's competitively priced for the location, views, and amenities, sir, she purred, and it includes the custom B&B Italia furnishings. Michael took a deep breath, looking out at the park stretching below like a green carpet. This was insane. But the system task demanded a minimum of $15 million. Why not blow past it? Show initiative, like Sterling said. Plus, the private elevator felt suitably Blackwood legacy. He contacted Miss Vance. I found a place. On U7 Penthouse. 35 million. There was a pause on the line. An excellent choice, Mr. Tran. Bold. We will begin the acquisition process immediately. The financing will be arranged against the estate's broader portfolio. Expect the paperwork within 24 hours. No negotiation, no haggling, just... Michael was starting to realize that when your backer was a multi-billion-dollar estate, normal financial rules warped significantly. The purchase process was ridiculously smooth. Sterling and Vance's legal team descended like ninjas. Paperwork flew. And within 3 days, Michael Tran, former tech support drone, was the owner of a $35 million penthouse apartment. His liquid cash remained around $10 million. The other $25 million had been covered by the estate's mysterious financial machinery. Ding! Task complete. Secure permanent residence. Property acquired on U7 duplex penthouse. $35 million. Value threshold significantly exceeded. Optional goal achieved. Property possesses unique features, biometric private elevator, panoramic views, state-of-the-art security. Reward, plus 650 legacy points, 500 base plus 150 bonus. Total LP 950. Reward, access to estate network. Level 2 unlocked. New sections available. Property management, basic asset allocation. Reward, master of the domain title activated. Effect, increased ambient comfort and minor intuitive understanding of property systems, while within the penthouse. Michael stood in the vast, empty living room of his new home, the city lights twinkling below. The master of the domain title felt weirdly accurate. He somehow knew exactly where the thermostat controls were hidden behind a panel, and felt a strange sense of calm he hadn't experienced at the hotel. 950 legacy points. He was climbing the ladder. The estate network level 2 access revealed more details. He could see a list of estate-owned properties he could potentially visit or utilize with approval, basic summaries of stock holdings, massive portfolios across blue-chip companies and tech giants, and a new communication channel labeled Air Coordination, Restricted. Intriguing. His phone buzzed. Not the system this time. A text message from an unknown number. Mr. Tran. Impressive acquisition. Bold indeed. Perhaps it's time we had a chat. The kindling is lit, don't you think? See. B.S. Clarissa Blackwood Smythe. She knew about the penthouse already. The game was definitely on. Michael looked around his enormous empty palace in the sky. He had the money, the place, the car, the system. Now he just needed to figure out how to win. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of settling in and system-driven lifestyle inflation. Michael hired an interior designer, someone discreet and with impeccable taste, Miss Vance had recommended, providing a name that probably cost more per HR than Michael used to earn in a week to furnish the sprawling penthouse. He approved designs featuring Italian leather sofas, abstract art that cost as much as a house, bespoke rugs, and enough high-tech gadgets to outfit a Bond villain's lair. Expenditure north of $2 million, barely denting his $10 million operating fund. Ding! Ongoing task, lifestyle congruence objective, maintain a standard of living consistent with your station. Subtask, penthouse furnishing. Phase 1 complete. Reward, plus 50 legacy points. Total LP 1000. Threshold reached 1000 LP. New system feature unlocked. System store. Level 1 access. New estate perk, access to Tier 1 estate street affing services. House manager, chef, security detail. Michael explored the system store. It wasn't about buying real-world items, but temporary buffs, minor skill boosts, or information packets using his accumulated legacy points. Options included things like Charisma Boost, 1 hour for 50 LP, Financial Acumen Primer, Basic, for 100 LP, or Competitor Profile Snippet, Clarissa BS, for 250 LP. Interesting. He decided to save his points for now. The estate staffing service was more immediately useful. Sterling contacted him. Mr. Tran, with a residence of this scale, adequate staffing is essential for both maintenance and security. We recommend engaging a house manager immediately. We have vetted candidates. Michael, overwhelmed by the sheer size of the penthouse and the logistics of just living there, readily agreed. He interviewed a few candidates, all incredibly professional and discreet, and settled on a calm, efficient woman named Mrs. Davies, who seemed capable of running a small country, let alone his apartment. She swiftly hired a small team, a gourmet chef, Chef Antoine, formerly of Per Se, Mrs. Davies noted casually, housekeepers, and arranged for a discreet security detail provided by an estate-approved firm. Suddenly, Michael had staff. People who called him Sir, anticipated his needs, and maintained his $35 million home with quiet competence. It was deeply weird, but also incredibly convenient. Chef Antoine's breakfasts alone were life-changing. No more instant ramen. His peace was interrupted by another text message. This one cruder than Clarissa's. Tran. Heard you are living large? Nice place. Don't get too comfortable. Some things belong to people who know how to hold on to them. D.T. Duke Thorne. The security consultant. This message felt less like a chess move and more like a fist tightening. Michael forwarded it to Sterling, whose only response was, "Noted. Your security detail is aware of Mr. Thorne's profile. Maintain situational awareness, but do not be intimidated." Right. Easy for him to say. The system, perhaps sensing the rising tension, issued a new task. New task, project power requirement. Make a significant, high-profile investment or acquisition demonstrating financial clout and strategic thinking. Minimum value, $5 million. Optional goal, outmaneuver or overshadow a rival heir in the process. Time limit, 7 days. Reward, plus 300 legacy points. Strategic mind perk. Minor improved pattern recognition in financial Dratso situations, access to estate investment committee. Observer status, $5 million. Strategic thinking, outmaneuver a rival. This was getting serious. Michael accessed the estate network level 2, looking at the basic asset summaries. He needed ideas. He also considered buying the competitor profile snippet from the system store for Clarissa, but decided against it for now. Better to rely on his own, admittedly limited instincts first. He started reading financial news, the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, things he'd never glanced at before. He noticed a buzz around a struggling but innovative biotech startup, Neurogen Corp., which was rumored to be close to a breakthrough in Alzheimer's research but desperately needed funding. Their stock was languishing. It felt like a gamble, but potentially a high-reward one. Both financially and reputationally, funding Alzheimer's research sounded suitably noble. He mentioned Neurogen to Miss Vance during a check-in call. "Interesting choice, Mr. Tran," she said, a hint of surprise in her voice. "High risk, high reward. Their Phase 2 trial data is due next week. A significant investment now could be pivotal, or disastrous." "Let's do it," Michael said, feeling a surge of decisiveness. "I want to invest $10 million. Can the estate facilitate that quickly and quietly? We can execute the trade through one of the estate's holding companies to mask the buyer initially," Vance confirmed. "Consider it done." The next day, news outlets reported a significant, anonymous $10 million investment in Neurogen Corp., causing its stock price to jump modestly. Michael felt a thrill. He'd made a move. 2 days later, the system dinged. System alert, competitor activity detected. Clarissa Blackwood Smythe has publicly announced a $7 million investment in Synaptic Solutions, a direct competitor to Neurogen Corp. Michael grinned. Clarissa had taken the bait, or at least reacted. She'd invested less and in Neurogen's rival. Now it all came down to the trial data. The day Neurogen was set to release its Phase 2 results, Michael paced his penthouse like a caged tiger. Chef Antoine tried to tempt him with truffle omelets, but even that couldn't distract him. He watched the financial news channels. His system interface opened to the stock ticker. Then the news broke. Neurogen's trial results were overwhelmingly positive, significantly better than expected. Their stock price exploded, soaring over 300% in pre-market trading. Synaptic Solutions, meanwhile, announced a minor setback in their own research, and their stock dipped. Ding. Task complete. Project power. Investment made. $10 million in Neurogen Corp. Value threshold met. Strategic outcome. Investment proved highly successful following positive trial results. Optional goal achieved. Investment successfully overshadowed rival heir's competing move. Reward plus 400 legacy points, 300 base plus 100 bonus. Total LP, 1400. Reward, strategic mind perk. Minor activated. Reward, access to estate investment committee. Observer status granted. Michael let out a whoop of triumph, startling Mrs. Davies, who had entered silently to offer him tea. His initial $10 million investment was now worth over $30 million on paper at least. More importantly, he'd scored points, unlocked new access, and publicly, though anonymously for now, bested Clarissa. The Estate Investment Committee access was essentially a secure video feed into dry meetings, where financial advisors discussed portfolio adjustments in jargon Michael barely understood, but being an observer felt like another step up. He celebrated by buying that Patek Philippe watch Mr. Dubois had suggested back at Saks, a Nautilus classic and ridiculously expensive, $150,000. It felt earned this time. He even wore it to a charity gala. Sterling insisted he attend. Visibility, Mr. Tran, visibility. At the gala, amidst the clinking champagne glasses and forced smiles, he saw her again. Clarissa Blackwood Smythe. She approached him directly this time, her smile sharp. "Mr. Tran," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "Or should I say, the mystery benefactor of Neurogen?" A bold gamble. "Congratulations." There was no warmth in her eyes. "Miss Blackwood Smythe," Michael replied, trying out his commanding presence perk, just diversifying the portfolio. Synaptic Solutions looked less promising. Her smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "The game is long, Mr. Tran. Early wins don't guarantee the prize. Josiah's trial, as the lawyers quaintly put it, is more complex than simple stock picks." "I am learning," Michael said easily, "and enjoying the process. Isn't that part of the requirement? Before she could respond, a large, imposing figure loomed beside them. Broad shoulders, expensive suit stretched tight, a face that looked like it had been used to stop pucks. Duke Thorne. He ignored Clarissa completely, focusing on Michael. Tran, he grunted, his voice a low rumble. He looked Michael up and down, his gaze lingering on the Patek Philippe. Flashy. Doesn't mean you know how to hold on to it. Mr. Thorne, Michael said coolly, refusing to be intimidated. His security detail, dressed in tuxedos and blending seamlessly, subtly shifted closer. Enjoying the party, Thorne just grunted again, shot a dismissive glance at Clarissa, and stalked off towards the bar. Clarissa watched him go, a flicker of distaste crossing her features. Charming fellow. Be careful, Mr. Tran. Some players don't follow the rules. She gave him another cool nod and glided away into the crowd. Michael stood there for a moment, the champagne suddenly tasting flat. He had money, a system, a penthouse, and he was winning tasks. But he was also juggling rivals who played dirty and played smart. Josiah Blackwood's trial was indeed more complex than just spending money. It was about power, strategy, and maybe, just maybe, survival. He touched the cool metal of his watch. He was in this now, all the way. Time to level up. With over 1,400 legacy points, Michael felt a tangible shift. The system interface seemed smoother. Information flowed more readily from the estate network, and Sterling and Vance treated him with a subtle increase in deference. He wasn't just a potential heir anymore. He was a contender. He started using his LP in the system store. He bought the Financial Acumen Primer Basic, and spent a few hours absorbing information that made his head spin, but left him with a slightly better grasp of the jargon used in the investment committee meetings. He also purchased a temporary social navigation boost before attending another stuffy charity dinner, which helped him glide through conversations with surprising ease. The system, however, wasn't letting him rest on his laurels. Ding! New task, Legacy Exploration Requirement. Visit a location of key significance to Josiah R. Blackwood's past. Uncover a piece of his personal history. Optional goal, acquire an artifact or item directly linked to Josiah. Location hint, where steel meets sky, and ambition was forged. Reward, plus 250 legacy points. Deeper access to genealogical records. Level 2, potential clue to Josiah's ultimate intentions. Where steel meets sky? Michael muttered. He accessed the genealogical records, Level 1, and Josiah's brief bio. It mentioned his early years working in Pittsburgh's steel mills before heading to Texas. Pittsburgh, Steel City. Makes sense. He informed Mrs. Davies and his security head, a stoic ex-military man named Marcus, of his travel plans. Within hours, a private jet courtesy of the estate naturally. Mr. Blackwood owned a small fleet. Sterling had informed him nonchalantly, was waiting at Teterboro Airport. Flying private was another level of surreal. No lines, no TSA groping. Just walking onto a luxurious aircraft where a flight attendant offered him champagne and gourmet snacks. They landed in Pittsburgh on a gray, drizzly afternoon. A black SUV whisked them to the city's historical industrial district, now partially revitalized but still bearing the scars of its smoky past. The location hint wasn't specific, so Michael instructed the driver to simply cruise through the areas near the old, defunct steel mills along the riverfront. He peered out the window, trying to imagine a young Josiah Blackwood working here, dreaming of oil fields and billions. It felt a world away from the Penthouse and the Patek Philippe. Stop here, Michael said suddenly, pointing towards a small, unassuming brick building tucked between a trendy microbrewery and a dilapidated warehouse. It housed an industrial heritage museum, according to the faded sign. Inside, the museum was small, dusty, and clearly underfunded. An elderly curator looked up in surprise as Michael, flanked by Marcus, walked in. Just looking around, Michael said politely. He wandered through exhibits of old machinery, photographs of grim-faced workers, and displays on the rise and fall of Pittsburgh steel. In a corner dedicated to captains of industry, local roots, he saw it. A small display case dedicated to Josiah R. Blackwood. It contained a few old photos, a young, intense-looking Josiah in overalls, another of him older, shaking hands with a politician, and a brief biography highlighting his start in the mills before his Texas success. And then Michael saw the artifact. A simple, worn, steel lunch pail, the kind the mill workers used to carry. An engraved plate on it read, J.R. Blackwood. Is this for sale? Michael asked the curator, pointing at the lunch pail. The curator adjusted his glasses. Oh, that. It was donated years ago by a former associate of Mr. Blackwood after he passed. It's part of our permanent collection, son. Sentimental value, you see. Michael thought fast. The task required uncovering history and optionally acquiring an artifact. This pail was perfect. I understand its value, Michael said, activating his commanding presence and polite deflection perks mentally. But I have a deep personal connection to Mr. Blackwood. He was my great-great-uncle. He pulled out his estate-linked Amex. I would be willing to make a very substantial donation to the museum in exchange for acquiring this piece of family history. enough to ensure this museum thrives for years to come. The curator's eyes widened. He looked from Michael's expensive clothes and watchful security guard to the black Amex, then back at the dusty lunch pail. Substantial? How substantial were you thinking? Michael asked calmly. They negotiated. Michael ended up donating $100,000 to the museum. The curator, looking slightly dazed but ecstatic, carefully removed the lunch pail from the display, and after signing some hastily drafted decession paperwork, handed it over. Ding! Task complete. Legacy exploration. Location visited, Pittsburgh Industrial Heritage Museum, site of Josiah's early labor. History uncovered, gained insight into Josiah's humble beginnings. Optional goal achieved, acquired artifact, Josiah R. Blackwood's personal lunch pail. Reward, plus 350 legacy points, 250 base, plus 100 bonus. Total LP 1750. Reward, deeper access to genealogical records, level 2 unlocked. Clue unlocked. Josiah valued humble beginnings, but despised perceived weakness. Strength, in all its forms, was paramount. Michael held the cool, surprisingly heavy steel pail. It felt strangely significant, a tangible link to the enigmatic man shaping his life from beyond the grave. The clue was interesting too. Despised perceived weakness. That might explain the competitive nature of the trial. Back in New York, the genealogical records level 2 revealed more branches of the sprawling Blackwood family tree, including more detailed notes on Clarissa's lineage, tracing back to a financially astute, but socially snubbed sister of Josiah's, and Duke's descended from the aforementioned wild younger brother, who was apparently disowned after a gambling scandal. It also hinted at other, even more obscure potential claimants the lawyers might not have found yet. His quiet period of reflection was shattered by an urgent call from Marcus, his security head. "Sir, we have a situation at the garage." Michael met Marcus downstairs. One of the valets looked shaken. "Mr. Tran, sir, your Lamborghini." He led Michael to where the Aventador was parked. Scratched down the side, deep and deliberate, were the letters. DT. Duke Thorne. Below it, someone had crudely keyed a message. "Next time it's you." Michael felt a cold fury rise within him. This wasn't strategy. This was vandalism, and a direct threat. "Security footage?" Michael asked Marcus, his voice tight. "Being reviewed," Marcus said grimly. "The garage has cameras, but Thorne's people are professionals. They likely knew the blind spots or used countermeasures. But this confirms he's escalating beyond veiled threats." Ding! System alert. Direct antagonist aggression detected. Threat level increased. Duke Thorne. Recommended action. Enhance personal security measures. Consider retaliation. High risk got high reward. New spontaneous task, retribution, or resolution. Option A. Retaliate against Duke Thorne. Requirement: inflict significant inconvenience or financial setback upon him. Reward plus 200 LP. Intimidator title. Minor. Increased respected fear from rivals. Option B. Resolve through formal channels. Requirement: utilize legal or estate resources to penalize Thorne. Reward plus 100 LP. Lawful reputation boost. Strengthened relationship with estate legal team. Option C. Ignore tab, absorb the loss. Requirement: repair vehicle. Take no further action. Reward: 50 LP. Perceived weakness penalty. Potential for increased future aggression from rivals. Michael stared at the options floating in his vision. Ignoring it was penalized Josiah despised weakness. Using lawyers felt unsatisfying, though perhaps prudent. Retaliation. That felt more in line with the cutthroat world he was now in. But how? He couldn't exactly go key Thorne's car. He looked at the ugly scratches on his beautiful $585,000 machine. Duke wanted to play rough? Fine. Michael remembered Thorne's background: security consulting. Probably a euphemism for something borderline legal, maybe involving debt collection or corporate espionage. Businesses like that often relied on reputation and discretion. "Marcus," Michael said slowly, an idea forming. "Does the estate network have information on Duke Thorne's business? Clients? Operations?" Marcus consulted a secure tablet linked to the estate network. Level 2 access provides basic corporate registration data for Thorne Security Solutions. It appears legitimate on the surface: executive protection, risk assessment, but intel suggests less savory activities operating in gray areas. Obtaining concrete evidence is difficult. "We don't need concrete evidence for court," Michael said, a ruthless edge creeping into his voice. "We just need enough smoke to start a fire. Can we leak rumors? Anonymous tips to journalists or regulatory bodies about irregularities in Thorne Securities practices. Nothing directly traceable to us, just enough to cause him audits, client jitters, and general chaos." Marcus raised an eyebrow, a flicker of respect in his eyes. "That falls under strategic disruption. The estate has resources capable of such dissemination discreetly. It carries risks, of course. If it's traced back, it could escalate things dramatically." "He already escalated," Michael said, gesturing at the car. "Let's do it." Option A. Ding! Task accepted. Retribution or resolution. Option A. Retaliate objective: inflict significant inconvenience or financial setback upon Duke Thorne via strategic disruption. Over the next few days, Marcus coordinated with unseen estate resources. Carefully crafted, anonymous tips mentioning potential tax evasion, unlicensed operations, and aggressive collection tactics by Thorn Security Solutions were leaked to select financial journalists and regulatory agencies known for pursuing such leads. Nothing happened immediately. Then, a week later, a small article appeared in a business journal questioning the ethics of certain boutique security firms, subtly referencing Thorn's company without naming it directly. Then came whispers of clients pulling back, contracts being reviewed. Thorn himself dropped out of sight, no more lurking at Gallus or sending crude texts. Marcus reported back, "Intel suggests Thorn is currently occupied dealing with multiple inquiries and audits. His operations are significantly disrupted. Estimated financial impact considerable, though hard to quantify precisely." Ding! Task complete. Retribution or resolution. Option A. Outcome: strategic disruption campaign successfully launched against Thorn Security Solutions, causing significant operational and financial inconvenience. Reward: plus 200 legacy points. Total LP 1950. Reward: Intimidator title, minor acquired. Effect: hostile NPCs, non-player characters / rivals may hesitate slightly before direct confrontation. Michael felt a grim satisfaction. He hadn't stooped to physical vandalism, but he'd hit Thorn where it hurt his business, his reputation. It was a cleaner, more effective form of warfare in this billionaire battleground. He had the Lamborghini repaired, the cost barely registering against his operating funds. He also decided it was time to invest more LP in himself. He purchased the competitor profile snippet for both Clarissa Blackwood Smythe and Duke Thorn from the system store. Clarissa Blackwood Smythe profile snippet: 250 LP strengths, highly intelligent, financially astute, extensive network in finance. Society, patient strategist. Weaknesses: perceived arrogance, potential over-reliance on conventional tactics, sensitive about her family's lesser Blackwood branch status. Motivation: believes the inheritance is rightfully hers due to intellect and capability. Sees it as correcting a historical family slight. Duke Thorn profile snippet: 250 LP strengths, ruthless, physically intimidating, experienced in underworld Tongray market operations, commands loyalty through Fearton patronage. Weaknesses: impulsive, prone to violence, lacks subtlety, potentially vulnerable legally and financially, due to business practices. Motivation: pure greed and entitlement. Believes strength and force are the only things that matter. The profiles confirmed his suspicions. Clarissa was the calculating queen on the chessboard. Duke was the unpredictable, brutish rook. Dealing with them required different strategies. His estate network access pinged. A message from Sterling. "Mr. Tran, your progress has been noted by the trustees. You have demonstrated adaptability, strategic thinking, and the requisite ruthlessness. It is time to engage more directly with the core of the Blackwood estate. Prepare for a visit to the Blackwood Manor in Texas." Further details to follow. Texas, the heart of Josiah's empire. Things were definitely escalating. Michael looked out at the Manhattan skyline from his penthouse. He was a long way from Queens, and the game was only getting started. The trip to Texas was orchestrated with the same absurd efficiency Michael was coming to expect. The estate's Gulfstream G650 flew him, Mrs. Davies, and Marcus to a private airfield outside Houston. From there, a helicopter also estate-owned. Apparently Josiah had a thing for convenient travel, waited to ferry them the final leg. As the helicopter banked, Michael got his first look at Blackwood Manor. It wasn't just a manor. It was a sprawling, fortress-like compound nestled amidst rolling hills, and what looked like active oil fields stretching to the horizon. Stone walls, wrought iron gates, multiple buildings, including the main house, guest wings, stables, and structures that looked suspiciously like high-tech security installations. It screamed old money, paranoia, and power. They landed on a helipad near the main house, a massive stone edifice that looked like a cross between a Scottish castle and a Texas ranch billionaire's fantasy. Sterling and Vance were waiting on the tarmac, looking as crisp and unflappable as ever. "Welcome to Blackwood Manor, Mr. Tran," Sterling said, gesturing towards the imposing entrance. "Josiah spent his last decades here. It's the nerve center of the estate." "It's big," Michael managed, taking in the sheer scale of the place. "Indeed," Miss Vance said, "and largely self-sufficient. Power generation, water treatment, extensive security systems, and a full-time staff of over 50. 50 people just to run the house?" Michael's penthouse team suddenly seemed modest. They were escorted inside. The interior was opulent, but dated heavy dark wood, leather furniture, hunting trophies mounted on the walls, including a rather alarming stuffed grizzly bear rearing in the main hall, and portraits of stern-looking ancestors, culminating in a massive, imposing portrait of Josiah R. Blackwood himself. He looked even more intense and ruthless in oil paint. Ding! System notification. Entering high legacy zone. Blackwood Manor legacy point acquisition rates, potentially modified based on actions within this location. Josiah's influence strongest here. System prompts may become more direct or reflect his personality. New task. The heart of the empire requirement. Familiarize yourself with Blackwood Manor and its key operations. Meet with the estate's chief operating officer. Optional goal: impress the Kuo with your grasp of the estate's scale and potential. Reward: plus 300 legacy points. Access to estate network. Level 3 operational overview. Increased trustee confidence. They were led to a large mahogany-paneled library. Waiting there was a man who looked like he wrestled oil rigs for fun. Tall, weathered face, sharp suit, but with the powerful build of someone who didn't spend all day behind a desk. "Mr. Tran," Sterling said, "allow me to introduce Mr. Jedediah Holloway, Chief Operating Officer of Blackwood Consolidated Holdings." Holloway gave Michael a firm, knuckle-crushing handshake and a penetrating stare. "Mr. Tran, heard about you. The New York experiment seems to be going." Interestingly, his voice was a low Texas drawl. "Mr. Holloway," Michael replied, meeting his gaze. "Time to try and impress. It's good to finally see the center of operations. The scale is impressive." Holloway grunted, gesturing towards a large, detailed map dominating one wall. It showed vast tracts of land across Texas and Oklahoma, dotted with symbols representing oil wells, refineries, pipelines, and real estate holdings. Scale is one thing, profitability is another. Josiah built an empire, but empires need strong hands to keep running. He spent the next hour giving Michael a crash course in Blackwood Consolidated Holdings. It wasn't just oil, it was logistics, real estate development, tech investments. Apparently Josiah had gotten into venture capital late in life, and complex international partnerships. The numbers were staggering, making Michael's penthouse purchase look like pocket money. Michael listened intently, occasionally asking questions prompted by his financial acumen primer and strategic mind perk. He tried to grasp the sheer complexity of managing such a diverse portfolio. "Josiah set up this trial," Holloway said, leaning back in a leather armchair, "because he didn't trust any one person to just inherit this without proving they wouldn't run it into the ground or squander it on frivolities. He wanted someone tough, smart, like him." He eyed Michael again. "The question is, are you just good at spending money the lawyers give you, or do you understand what generates that money?" "I am learning," Michael said honestly. "The Neurogen investment wasn't just luck. I saw potential in their tech, and a gap in the market their competitor left open. Managing this," he gestured at the map, "is obviously different, but the principles identifying value, managing risk, being decisive seem similar." Holloway gave a non-committal grunt, but the intensity of his stare lessened slightly. "Maybe. We'll see. The other candidates are sniffing around too. Clarissa thinks she can charm the board with spreadsheets. Thorne thinks he can bully his way into control. Both underestimate the old man's design." "What is the design?" Michael asked directly. Holloway smirked. "If I knew the exact endpoint, it wouldn't be much of a trial, would it? All I know is Josiah wanted a successor forged, not born, and he built certain mechanisms into the estate to facilitate that." He tapped the side of his head. "Mechanisms beyond just lawyers and accountants." Was he hinting at the system, or something else? Ding! Task complete. The heart of the empire. Familiarization achieved. Toured Blackwood Manor. Received briefing from Kuo. Optional goal achieved. Kuo Holloway moderately impressed by displayed understanding and decisiveness. Reward: plus 350 legacy points. 300 base plus 50 bonus. Total LP 2300. Reward: access to estate network. Level 3 operational overview unlocked. Reward: trustee confidence increased. The estate network level 3 opened up a dashboard showing real-time summaries of oil production figures, key portfolio performances, and operational reports from various Blackwood subsidiaries. It was overwhelming, but it gave Michael a clearer picture of the engine driving his newfound wealth. Sterling informed him he'd be staying at the manor for a few days. Guest suites were, predictably, palatial. Michael found himself wandering the vast, echoing halls, feeling the weight of Josiah's legacy. He visited the stables housing sleek Arabian horses, the state-of-the-art security center. Marcus was like a kid in a candy store, and even a private shooting range Josiah apparently used frequently. One evening, exploring a less-used wing, Michael stumbled upon Josiah's private study. It was kept exactly as he left it, heavy cigar smoke still faintly perfuming the air. A massive oak desk, leather-bound books lining the walls, and a half-finished glass of whiskey on a side table. On the desk, amidst papers and geological maps, sat a peculiar object, a sleek, futuristic-looking tablet, unlike the surrounding antique decor. It was dark inert. Michael felt an odd pull towards it. He reached out, his fingers brushing the cool glass screen. Suddenly, the tablet flickered to life. The screen displayed a complex, shifting geometric pattern, and a single line of text: Legacy Wealth System Primary Node Interface. Air proximity detected. Biometric scan required. Before Michael could react, a faint beam of light scanned his face and hand. Biometric match confirmed. Michael Tran. Welcome. Primary user. System override. Directives from primary node supersede standard prompts. New directive. Survive the gauntlet. The screen shifted, showing brief, flashing images. Clarissa looking calculating, Duke looking menacing, a gavel smashing down, a handshake sealing a deal, a a shadowy figure lurking in the background. Directive details. The final phase of the trial involves direct confrontation and resolution with competing heirs. Location, Blackwood Manor grounds. Event, the annual Blackwood Legacy Hunt, Josiah's Little Game. Rules will be provided 24 hours prior. Objective, emerge as the undisputed primary heir. Warning, failure carries significant consequences. Success unlocks full estate control and system mastery. Estimated probability of success. 47.8%. Michael stared at the tablet, his blood running cold. A legacy hunt? Direct confrontation? Survive the gauntlet? This wasn't just about spending money or making investments anymore. Josiah's Little Game sounded downright dangerous, and a less than 50% chance of success. The tablet screen went dark again, becoming inert. Michael backed away slowly. He now understood Holloway's comment about mechanisms beyond lawyers. Josiah hadn't just set up a financial trial. He'd set up a Hunger Games scenario with billions at stake, and it was starting soon. He needed to prepare. His LP score, his perks, his staff, his wits, he'd need everything. And maybe, just maybe, he'd need to embrace that ruthlessness Josiah seemed to value so much. The next 24 hours were thick with tension. Sterling and Vance confirmed the legacy hunt was indeed happening, describing it as a traditional, if eccentric event Josiah had outlined in a confidential addendum to his will. They provided the official rules, which were couched in vague, pseudo-legal terms, but essentially described a high-tech scavenger hunt across the vast manor grounds, involving clues, challenges, and designated neutral zones. The objective, be the first to retrieve a specific object Josiah's original signed partnership agreement for his first successful oil company. Crucially, the rules explicitly forbade physical violence between heirs, but allowed for strategic impediment and the use of estate resources, which felt like a massive loophole. Sabotage, misdirection, and leveraging personal staff, like Marcus's security team, or presumably whatever Duke Thorne called his goons, seemed not only allowed, but expected. Michael also learned that both Clarissa and Duke were already present at the manor, housed in separate wings. The atmosphere was electric with unspoken rivalry. He spent the day strategizing with Marcus and Mrs. Davies. Marcus analyzed maps of the grounds, identified potential routes, ambush points, and security blind spots. Mrs. Davies coordinated logistics, ensuring transport, golf carts, ATVs apparently part of the estate resources available, communication gear and supplies were ready. Michael, meanwhile, focused on the system. He had 2300 LP. He spent heavily competitor profile update. Clarissa 300 LP revealed she had secured advanced mapping data of the grounds and was likely planning a route based on efficiency and avoiding direct confrontation initially. Competitor profile update, Duke 300 LP, indicated he had brought a larger than expected contingent of staff and was likely planning a brute force approach, potentially involving roadblocks or intimidation tactics. Short-term precognition, minor 500 LP, a risky gamble, offering brief, unpredictable flashes of potential near future events during the hunt. Environmental analysis, local 200 LP, enhanced awareness of surroundings, potential hazards, and hidden paths within a limited radius. Multiple stamina boost, 1 hour, and mental focus 1 hour buffs, 400 LP total. He was left with 600 LP, feeling like he'd equipped his character for a boss fight. The hunt began at dawn. Michael, Clarissa, and Duke assembled in the main hall, beneath Josiah's imposing portrait. Sterling read the final instructions. Holloway watched with unreadable eyes. Clarissa gave Michael a curt, professional nod. Duke just cracked his knuckles and glared. As Sterling announced, "Begin," each heir received the first clue via a dedicated estate tablet. Michael's read, where Blackwood first struck liquid gold, beneath the gaze of the watchful fold. "The oldest active well on the property," Marcus said immediately, pointing to a location on his own tablet linked to the estate network. "Near the sheep pasture, Sector Gamma." They raced out to their prepared electric ATV, Marcus driving, Michael navigating, and keeping an eye on the system interface, which now showed a live map with faint indicators for Clarissa and Duke's approximate positions based on estate network tracking, another perk of his higher access level. Clarissa, in a sleek high-tech ATV, seemed to be heading the same way via a paved path. Duke, predictably, was tearing across the open fields in a reinforced buggy with 2 bulky men riding shotgun, taking a more direct, ground-chewing route. "He'll get bogged down if it's rained recently near the creek," Marcus noted, expertly maneuvering their quieter ATV along a less obvious service track. Suddenly, Michael's precognition flashed a brief image of a fallen tree blocking the track ahead. "Stop!" Tree fall ahead. Marcus braked hard. Sure enough, around the bend, a large oak lay across the path, too fresh to be natural. Duke's work, no doubt. Thorne's boys must have been busy overnight, Marcus muttered, already scanning for a detour. Thanks to the environmental analysis perk, Michael spotted a faint trail leading through the woods. It was rougher, but bypassed the roadblock. They lost some time, but avoided the trap. The system map showed Clarissa had also been delayed, likely by a similar obstacle. Duke, however, was closing in on Sector Gamma. They reached the Watchful Fold, a small hill overlooking the pasture where sheep grazed peacefully, and saw the pumpjack for well number 1, churning rhythmically. Near its base was a small weather-beaten plaque. Attached was their next clue, but Duke was already there, his buggy parked halfedly. He and his men were searching around the pumpjack. Plan B, Marcus whispered. Distraction. He used his radio to contact another member of his team positioned strategically. Moments later, a loud burst of fireworks erupted from the opposite side of the pasture, spooking the sheep into a bleeding stampede directly towards Duke and his men. Chaos erupted. As Duke and his goons were momentarily distracted by angry sheep and dazzling explosions, Michael, covered by Marcus, sprinted to the plaque, grabbed the clue envelope, and dashed back to the ATV. They sped off just as Duke realized what had happened, roaring in frustration. The next clue led them towards the old stables, within the house of equine pride. Find the wisdom Josiah couldn't hide. As they raced towards the stables, Clarissa's icon on the map converged with theirs. She appeared on the track behind them, driving smoothly, alone. She pulled alongside. Tran, she called over the engine noise, looking remarkably composed. Thorn is resorting to thuggery. Perhaps a temporary alliance is mutually beneficial? We neutralize his obstacles together, then race for the final prize. Michael hesitated. The system flashed Clarissa's profile. Patient strategist. Potential over-reliance on conventional tactics. An alliance might be useful, but she'd discard him the moment it suited her. Tempting, Clarissa, Michael shouted back. But I think I'll stick to my own path for now. He signaled Marcus to accelerate. Clarissa gave a slight shrug and maintained her pace, neither hostile nor friendly. At the stables, the clue involves solving a riddle based on the names of Josiah's favorite racehorses. Information Michael pulled quickly from the genealogical records level 2. While Michael worked on the riddle inside the tack room, Marcus spotted 2 of Duke's men attempting to disable their ATV. Marcus and another security team member intercepted them, no violence. Just swift, professional detainment, using zip ties and removing their comms, leaving them securely and embarrassingly tied up in an empty stall. They solved the riddle, finding the next clue hidden inside an old riding trophy. It pointed towards the manor's hedge maze, lost in the green, where choices confound. The path to legacy must be found. The hedge maze was enormous and notoriously difficult. As they entered, Michael's environmental analysis perk proved invaluable, highlighting subtle markers and potential dead ends. They made good progress, but the system map showed both Clarissa and Duke, also inside the maze, their icons moving erratically. Suddenly, a section of hedge to their right rustled. Michael's precognition flashed again, Duke lunging. Marcus! Marcus reacted instantly, shoving Michael aside as Duke Thorn burst through the foliage, eyes wild. He ignored the no-violence rule, clearly enraged by the fireworks and his captured men. He swung a heavy fist at Marcus. Marcus, trained in close combat, deflected the blow and engaged Thorn. It wasn't a brawl. It was controlled defense, Marcus using leverage and technique to keep the larger man off balance without escalating to serious injury. Adhering to the spirit of the rules, if not the letter. Go! Marcus grunted, blocking another wild swing. Get the final clue! Michael hesitated, then ran, following the path indicated by his system. He found the center of the maze, where a small pedestal held the final clue envelope. As he grabbed it, Clarissa emerged calmly from another path, brushing a leaf from her pristine jacket. Impressive, she said coolly, though your methods are somewhat direct. She eyed the sounds of the struggle nearby. Shall we? The final clue was meant for whoever reached the center first. Michael tore it open. The foundation stone, signed with pride, now rests where old man Blackwood hides. His private study, Michael breathed. The safe behind the portrait. Clarissa nodded. The race is on, Tran. They sprinted out of the maze via the most direct exit, leaving Duke still grappling with Marcus, who seemed to be handling him adequately. They emerged to find their respective vehicles waiting. The final leg was a straight dash back to the manor house. Michael's ATV was faster off-road, but Clarissa's sleeker vehicle had the edge on the paved driveway leading to the house. She pulled ahead slightly as they neared the entrance. But Michael had one last trick. He used his remaining LP to buy a minor sabotage option from the system store, 600 LP expensive. He targeted Clarissa's ATV's electrical system. System action, minor sabotage, electrical short circuit target, Clarissa BS's vehicle. Executing. Sparks suddenly flew from Clarissa's dashboard. Her ATV sputtered and died just meters from the main entrance. She looked momentarily shocked, then furious, as Michael's ATV roared past her and screeched to a halt. Michael sprinted inside, through the main hall, ignoring the startled looks from Holloway and the lawyers, and burst into Josiah's study. He went straight to the imposing portrait, felt along the edge, and found the hidden mechanism. The portrait swung inwards, revealing a large, heavy vault door. He placed his hand on the scanner next to it. The system flashed. Primary user biometrics recognized. Access granted. The vault clicked open. Inside, nestled on velvet lining, was a single aged document, Josiah Blackwood's original partnership agreement. His bold signature clear at the bottom. Michael grabbed it. He turned, document in hand, just as Clarissa entered the study. Breathing heavily, her composure finally ruffled. Hot on her heels was Duke Thorne, looking disheveled and furious, having apparently overpowered or evaded Marcus. Michael held up the document, looking for this. Sterling stepped forward, his face impassive. Mr. Tran has successfully retrieved the designated object. According to the rules stipulated by Mr. Blackwood, the legacy hunt is concluded. Michael Tran is the prevailing heir. Clarissa stared, her fists clenched, saying nothing. Duke looked ready to explode, but Holloway stepped subtly beside him, a silent warning. Ding! Directive complete. Survived the gauntlet. Primary objective achieved. Secured the legacy object. Outcome: undisputed primary heir status confirmed. Reward: full estate control authorized, pending legal formalities. Reward: legacy wealth system mastery unlocked. Legacy points balance irrelevant. You have won. Final system message from Josiah R. Blackwood's core programming. Well done, boy. You've got grit. More than those other disappointments. Didn't just spend the money, didn't just play by the rules. You adapted. You fought. You won. That's the Blackwood way. Now, don't screw it up. The system interface shimmered, then transformed. Gone were the tasks and LP counters. Instead, it became a sleek, powerful dashboard displaying complete control over the estate's assets, personnel, and operations. The estate network, financial controls, security systems, all integrated. It felt less like a game, more like the ultimate CEO toolkit. Michael looked from the triumphant system message to the faces of his rivals. Clarissa met his gaze, a flicker of grudging respect finally showing. Duke just looked murderous. Holloway gave a slow nod. Sterling and Vance began shuffling papers, the legal formalities already underway. He had done it. From a queen's apartment to commanding a multi-billion-dollar empire. He'd faced down relatives, navigated luxury, made strategic plays, and survived Josiah's insane hunt. He held the foundation of the Blackwood fortune in his hand and the digital keys to its future in his head. The journey had been wild, surreal, and often terrifying. But as he stood there, the weight of the document and the power of the system settling over him, Michael Tran felt something new. Not just wealth, but control, destiny, embraced. Now, the real work began. Managing the empire, dealing with the fallout. But first, maybe he'd tell Chef Antoine to prepare a celebratory meal. He'd definitely earned it.